got it back.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened?
Oh, Dr. Odekor noticed that it had been in here for like a year or two, and he'd never seen anyone use it because I don't lecture at the same time as him.
Yeah.
And he thought someone had just abandoned it. So he asked his students, does anyone know where it came from? If not, does anyone want it? But he made sure to keep in touch with whoever it was in case its owner manifested. The owner manifested.
Funny. Wait, so then a kid took it?
It was given to a student.
Yeah.
By
And
Dr.
then,
Odekor.
but then how did they get it back?
Dr. Odekor asked nicely after I asked Dr. Odekor where my thing was.
So weird and funny.
All right. Good day, students. Hope you're all doing well. This is the last week of class, and this is actually the last class session because Thursday won't exist. So, calendar. There we go. Welcome to the end of the semester. Like I said earlier, you survived the first full school year post the world ending. So congratulations. It's, as always, it's been hectic and no one's brain is in the condition it's supposed to be at the moment. But at the very least, I have enjoyed getting to teach all of you, and it's been really fun. So thank you all. Now, in terms of class, we are only meeting today. Thursday is reading day, and then exam season starts from Friday the 7th on until Wednesday the 12th. Is anyone in here a senior? Okay, because senior grading is different here, but if no one's a senior, that is fine. So, because exam season runs from Friday to Wednesday, that is when the online exam will open. You'll be able to take it on WebAssign, kind of like with the test, from the point where it opens to the point where it closes. There'll be a 6-hour timer on it. Once you begin, just have all your answers in and your work submitted to me before that timer runs out. I will grade the work mainly and very heavily for partial credit. There will be 210 points of questions. You'll be graded out of 200. It's just a test. It's 2 tests functionally.
So it's like 20 questions?
Yes. And to facilitate studying, I can get Brightspace to let me in. That's the wrong class. Wi-Fi seems particularly annoyed at me today. Is it giving anyone else grief?
I mean, it's better than when it wasn't there.
That's fair. Some is better. Some having bad signal is a different type of frustrating to having no signal at all. At least in my opinion.
I mean,
So,
it does suck.
there is currently a final exam tab on Brightspace. We have the list of topics. This is, for the most part, the previous 2 lists combined with a little bit tacked on at the end for the things we talked about last week. There's also practice questions. In general, keep in mind I tend to make the practice questions at the very least longer, if not harder than what the exam will actually be, because I'd rather the practice be trickier than the actual thing. But if you can do these, it'll be excellent practice for the exam itself. Answer key will be up soon. They are completely optional. You can look at and talk about them if you'd like. Answer key will at least be up by reading day. I have many things to do this week, but it'll at least be up by reading day. As for the list of topics itself, we began the semester with 3 chapters on heat and thermodynamics. The exam itself won't really bother subdividing them up into categories, but they're still labeled here so that you know what in your notes to turn to and look at. If it's not on this document, it will not be represented at all on the exam itself. So, to help direct what you're studying. Chapter 10, Introduction to Thermal Energy itself, talked about, at least briefly, about the 0th law of thermodynamics, the temperature scales, be able to convert between them, the concept of thermal expansion, and the kinetic theory of gases, our reintroduction to Pevnert and being able to calculate how much energy is inside of a gas. Again, all formulas will be provided. Chapter 11, specific heat capacity, applying that for calorimetry exercises, and then phase change, and then rate of thermal conduction, also known as thermal power. Chapter 12, we formally looked more closely at each individual law of thermodynamics. Examples of what applies to each are here. 0th law, just if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. 1st law, work done by a system. The energy in a system remains constant. We did problems involving the expanding pistons and the heat flow charts. Entropy, absolute 0, and then efficiency. Efficiency being, you have 15 joules, but you only use 10 of them successfully. Calculate percentage. And that summarizes all of the heat stuff that we did that will be present. Then we began our very long middle point about many things as they related to electricity and magnetism. Electricity is made of charged particles. Charged particles can pass through a conductor, but don't pass through an insulator. We did a lot of math involving Coulomb's law. That's the full statement. Electric force equals KQQ over R squared. And the charges act on each other through Coulomb's law by making electric fields. Chapter 16, we looked at capacitors and capacitance, the energy inside the capacitor and inside of electrical fields. Looked at how capacitors work and combine together in a circuit. 17 was all about resistor circuits, how voltage, current, and resistance tie together to make pretty much every electronic circuit you've ever used or thought of. Current is the moving electricity itself. It is pushed through resistors by voltage, as represented here by Ohm's law. Talked about resistance itself, electrical power, and how to calculate your electrical bills using kilowatt hours and how much you are charged per kilowatt hour. More circuits. Officially, if you were to look in the book, most of our resistor circuit stuff is labeled in chapter 18. I taught it as part of the continued chapter 17 because that made more sense to me. But if you're reading the notes, that is a continuation from there. Sorry, reading the book, it was completely optional. It's a continuation from there. How they combined in circuits, how to follow current and voltage through a circuit, namely every element in a parallel circuit has the same voltage but different current. Every element in a series circuit has different voltage but the same current. Remember at least those two things. Then magnets. The fields themselves, be able to use the formula for how the fields act on moving charges, either single charges or current in a wire. The right-hand rule for figuring out the direction of that inevitable force. The torque equation, when you expose a loop with current in it to a magnetic field. Say the same thing we did when we built the motors. The one equation that has combined magnetic force and centripetal force will be provided to you, but be familiar with what it does and where you can use it. And magnetic field created by wires, mainly wires. We only really talked about wires, so only wires will really be present. My loops will be relevant though, since the motor has a loop coil in the middle, but you'll only have to do math for wires, single wires. And lastly, just what we talked about last week, there wasn't a whole lot of math involved, and so it also won't make up a very large majority of the questions present. Again, just the things I feel are important for you to understand about them to exist as a sensing being on this planet. We talked about the boundary interactions, the types of waves, and a couple of math questions involving the speed of those waves. And that is independently a lot of different things, but if we haven't talked about all the stuff on the exam will be things that we have talked about and the types of questions we have worked before. And if you needed to, you have a full week from now to study and take it. Because I'm leaving it open until Wednesday so that you have all of exam season. I think officially this class's exam is probably Sunday. Is that what we talked about?
It was Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Okay. Oh, so you have a week anyway. Regardless, I want to give you guys the freedom since it doesn't really matter when you would take it online anyway. It's my other, it's H lecture that has it on Mother's Day, which we all voted was no. So, any questions about anything at all?
So like when we take the final, right? Because like, you know, I'll probably have questions. What kind of like hours are we looking at so that you are like most available to like answering? You know what I mean?
Good question. I would say I am usually awake and in a state to quickly check and answer emails between 9 a.m. to midnight most days. For the sake of caution, I'll turn that back to 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those are my usual operating hours. So if you start at 11 p.m., I might answer your first email, but I won't be awake much longer. Also, I wouldn't recommend that just for your own sleep schedule. And I would advise investing a chunk of multiple hours at any point between 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. I would advise your entire exam period to fall between those times. Formula sheet is open for you. Calculator's open. I'll make sure you have all of the constants that you need. If for some reason I don't list speed of light, or mass of a proton, that's a known constant. That's free information. If I don't provide it, you can ask me and I'll make sure you have it quickly. I'm planning on updating the constant sheet that I made for the previous test though, to make sure everything needed is on there. Considering that you'll have to access WebAssign itself to get a formula sheet. No, wait, there's answer keys on WebAssign. Never mind. You can hide them all.
You could email it to us.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I could send out a formula sheet when I re-announce all the rules. Okay. Sorry.
Then the same thing with like, what is it, like 15 minutes after like turn or email the work?
Yes, please send in your work. The work is what I'm grading for most heavily. Again, the only way to have no points for a question is to leave it completely blank. So literally leave nothing blank. At the very least, if you don't send in your work and have an answer for everything, the absolute worst you could do if your answers made no sense would be a 10%. If you had an answer for everything. The way to get a 0 is to leave it blank. If your answer is an intelligible one, and I can see where it came from, the worst you could do is probably a 50.
It's not bad at all.
As long as you make an honest attempt and send me some amount of work for it, even if it's not a full question, could easily get half credit by just listing formulas relevant to it and starting. As long as you try, you guys are going to be fine. 'Cause looking at your grades the whole semester, you've all been doing very well. You're all some manner of scientists, so you can do this. Any questions? Anything you'd like to go over or review? It is okay if not. I know when I'm asked, do I have questions, I usually don't have an answer yet. With that said, I advise you guys to just keep looking over study materials here and your old notes. Answer key will be up soon with practice questions. We can spend time looking at and working those questions if you want, but if not, this is the last class and you guys are free to do what you want. You guys made it at the end. Honestly, a lot of you could probably not do the exam and possibly pass the class.
What's the percentages wise of stuff for class?
I think the exam is 30-ish%. Pull up my own syllabus real quick.
And then quizzes and tests.
Exam is 30%, meaning if you have an A in the class and you just don't do the exam at all, you could probably squeak out with a C or a D.
Is it tests are what, 65 or something?
Tests are 38 total. Both tests averaged together make up that 38. So I guess each test is 19%.
Mm-hmm.
What are labs?
Labs are 17%. Here, why don't I just give you
Yeah.
the chart to look at?
Okay. Oh, wait.
Additionally, this is one I get asked pretty often. If you want confirmation of what your score is going into the exam, I can do that math for you. That said, you should have all your scores, so you could also do this math. The way that I personally do it is, I say, for example,
I did this wrong.
0.38 times your test average plus 0.05 times your quiz average plus 0.1 times your homework average plus 0.17 times your lab average. And all of that together should give you some number that tops out at a maximum of about 0.7. If you had hundreds for all of this, this number would only add up to 0.7, 70%. Because the exam's not in it yet.
Oh, wait. I did this wrong.
So to figure out what your grade out of 100 actually would be, you take whatever this is and you divide it by 0.7. Alternatively, you could also multiply it by 10 divided by 7. Both would get you where you want to go.
Whoa. Say that again to find out what?
Okay, sorry. My apologies. Whatever number you get from this sum, right now the 0.7 would be if all three of these averages were 100. Because this by itself
I
could
think it
only
would be
max out at 0.7.
70 actually.
Well,
Because you would move everything 2 decimal places if it was times 100.
well, that would be 100 times. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So you get a 70 out of that if all of those were 100 and this marked at 9.
So that's if you didn't do your final, right?
Yes, this would be your grade if the final was just a 0.
Okay.
To know your current complete average out of 100 before the exam actually happens, though, you can take this number and either divide it by 70 to get a decimal ratio. You'd have to multiply it by 100% again. Alternatively, 70 times 10 over 7 would do the trick as well. So when someone asks me what is my grade before the exam, this is the math that I do. I will do it for you because I have all your grades in front of me on a spreadsheet, so it might be faster for me to do it, but if you want to do it yourself, check the math, this is how I do it.
Did we get all our labs back?
Ah, nuts. I spent so much time weekend before last, frantically making sure I had everyone's labs graded so that I could have given them back during lab last week, and then I didn't do it.
Oh my god!
I had them graded, and then I didn't return them.
We're supposed to come in today, aren't we?
Correct.
Oh my god, I totally forgot to do that test thing.
Okay.
You said 30 minutes max?
It's actually 50 minutes max, but most
Like
people
an hour?
finish early. Okay. I apologize, everyone. These are the last 3. Wait, I haven't finished grading the electric motors one yet. Crud. Well, I have failed on my mission to have your labs back to you guys. I am terribly sorry. I haven't graded the last one yet. Bless you, by the way.
Thank you.
So, while I'm wallowing in that failure, I do have labs 5 through 7 graded for you guys. This is magnets and magnetic field investigation. This is magnetic applications investigation. And this is resistors in a circuit. So this is 5 through 7, I believe. I do have your lab 8s, I just haven't finished grading them yet because the end of the semester is a fever dream for professors. And that's when there isn't a global crisis. And yes, if you did not take the exit Scantron survey yet, I would ask you to come in today at lab time to do it. That's all you would have to do. There's no calculator because there's no math involved. It's just concept questions. So, if you didn't do that at all last week, do please come in for that. That'll be the only thing you'll have to do. And if you want, you'll have access to whatever fudge is left.
So if we wanted to know our grade right now, should we just email you? Or like?
Yes, you can email me and I can make sure you have that calculated. I could also calculate what you need on the exam to get blank grade in the class.
That's what, yeah.
Because a lot of people ask that. That said, the way I do that math is I take, like if you wanted to have an A for the class, you need at least a 90 total average.
Mm-hmm.
So take this number, subtract it from 90. So in this case, that'd be a 20. The 20 times 30, sorry, that would be, I'm forgetting my own method. 1 second. It would need to be 20 equals 0.3 times your exam grade.
So 20 divided by the 0.3.
Yes. So the difference between the grade you want and the number this gives you, divided by 0.3, will tell you your needed exam grade. So if you had a 100 in absolutely everything, and you wanted an A in the class, all you would need is a 67 on the exam to get an A in the class.
That means like get maybe a couple right, and then you can do weird stuff for the other ones, but try.
At least try. To get at least a 50 on every question, at least in the work, write out the relevant formulas. Maybe start doing some algebra to lead you in the right direction. Just writing formulas and having some answer is already at least half the points. And again, I say all this to remind you guys, you're all going to be fine. You've all been doing very well. All you have to do is not panic and just actually do it. Panic is the enemy. It makes the brain do things it otherwise wouldn't. Take a deep breath. Keep studying. Email me your questions, and y'all will be just fine. And you have a good summer, and I will miss you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I am going to try to grade these really quickly, so if you want your lab back soon, you can stick around. If you don't especially care, then go enjoy your day.
Wait, can we take our thing right now?
Yes,
Can I do that?
yes.
Okay.
If you haven't taken the exits questionnaire thing yet and you want to, you absolutely can right now. If not, you guys are free to make your own decisions and do as you will. Thank you all very much for a good semester. If anyone wants more fudge, they can have some. And Doritos. And have a nice day.
Can I take the exam there now?
Yes. So,
Or do you want me to turn that off?
yes, please. It's a